In this video, we are going over Marcelo Garcia's second ADCC finals match back in 2007. Pablo obviously has a game planned in mind because he immediately jumps into full guard. Marcelo is keeping a very sturdy base, and now we're seeing a lot of micro adjustments from both sides, and they both have a goal in mind. Pablo jumping into closed guard means that he wants to bring Marcelo down to the floor with him in full guard already. Marcelo is not trying to give Pablo that advantage, so he stays standing. Pablo is trying to isolate Marcelo's left arm, and Marcelo recognizes the threat, so he very briefly performs a limp arm to free his left arm and get it back into a more comfortable position. Pablo is being persistent on keeping the closed guard, but he can't stay here forever. Gravity is working against him, and it's just a matter of time before his legs run out of energy and he is eventually going to fall on the floor. Marcelo, at this point, just needs to keep a sturdy base and continue pushing Pablo's hips and his legs down until he's able to break the full guard. So as soon as the guard is broken, we see that Marcelo does try to go for inside position, but Pablo is able to grab an underhook on his left side, and he has an underhook on Marcelo's left leg on his right side. And so from here, he has two basic options. He might try to use the underhook to get into a dogfight position or wrestle up, or he could use his right arm to pull himself under Marcelo and start going for a deep half guard position. Pablo lets go of Marcelo's left leg, and before he transitions into a position that he wants to be in, Marcelo takes a really big back step to avoid Pablo from using that underhook effectively. So now we're in a half guard position, but there are a lot of things that could happen from here. They are both making very small micro adjustments to gain some sort of advantage on each other. Marcelo goes for a guillotine for a split second, but realizes he's not going to be able to get it. Marcelo then tries to attack the lower body and pushes Pablo's left leg down. But it does give Marcelo a slight advantage from that little movement that he did. You see that his ankle is now over Pablo's shin instead of being behind its calf. So he is a little bit closer into passing Pablo's guard from this position. Pablo does recognize this, and so he tries to get back into a neutral position. Pablo uses that right foot to feed Marcelo's leg back into the position that they were originally in to make it more neutral compared to what it was before. Marcelo is leaning to his right side. He also has his arm over Pablo's head, but because of the pressure that Marcelo is putting on him, Pablo is forced to have his legs open, but Pablo is able to catch his foot behind Marcelo's knee, which allows Pablo to follow Marcelo's movement. And so from this position, the only thing that's stopping Pablo from sweeping Marcelo right now is the fact that Marcelo has his right hand planted onto the ground, and that's not allowing Pablo to get the sweep. So Marcelo puts his pressure back forward. Pablo goes back on his back, but again, before Pablo can do any sort of wrestle up position or get into deep half, Marcelo does the same back step that he did before, and we are back into the same position that we saw earlier. And what's interesting for me is the fact that Marcelo is not going for any sort of crossface in this position. For me, I think it's just because he believes in his guillotine so much that he's almost baiting Pablo to get up from here, but Pablo is not taking the bait. He's keeping tight on Marcelo, and because Pablo has the figure four and his foot is right in front of Marcelo's face, Marcelo decides why not try to go for a toe hold, but this has two purposes. He's probably not expecting to get the toe hold, but it does make Pablo react to the submission attempt. That as Marcelo goes for it, Pablo briefly uses his right arm to open up to push Marcelo off of his foot, but that also gives Marcelo inside position, which is something that he's been fighting for. Pablo recognizes that giving up inside position was a mistake, and so he leans a little bit to his left side. He brings his right arm under Marcelo, and that allows him to get back into inside position to where we were before. Marcelo again tries to go for a toe hold, but as he's going for it, Pablo is able to get a deep underhook on Marcelo. He gets that right foot to hook under his knee. Marcelo immediately recognizes the danger of the butterfly sweep that's being set up, And while it looks like he was about to get swept, he transfers Pablo's foot from the back of his knee to his hips, so the butterfly sweep is not as effective as it should be. And using a little bit of athleticism, he is able to do another back step to avoid the butterfly hook, and we are back into the half guard that we've seen so far. Pablo is doing a really good job making sure that Marcelo can't advance, even though Marcelo probably feels like he should be able to pass from here. Marcelo decides enough is enough, and so he pushes off. However, he does bring his hips right over Pablo's hips. That allows Pablo to get right under Marcelo. He's able to get Marcelo's left leg on his shoulder. And from here, he probably would have liked to go for some sort of X guard or a number of wrestle up techniques that you could do from here, because this is a great position to sweep someone. But Marcelo recognizes this, and he actually pulls Pablo's head forward so his left leg can go over Pablo's head, and he's able to scramble out of the position. Pablo, with the underhook that he had, tries to go for a takedown from his knees, but Marcelo sprawls. And then Pablo is looking to bring his hips up and looking to back out so he could possibly get up into top position or get back into a wrestling position. But Marcelo is keeping that head and arm grip very strong. And when he feels like his grip is good, he attempts to go for a guillotine, which forces Pablo to his knees. But it doesn't seem to be that tight, because Marcelo does give up that back control with his leg, and instead he uses his left leg to hook behind Pablo's right knee. So this is more of a controlling position instead of trying to get the submission. In my previous video, we did see Mika use this a ton. If your opponent tries to roll out of it or anything like that, you have that hook to be able to follow them wherever they go. So Pablo attempts to try to get up again. Marcelo is making sure that he is prioritizing that hook behind the knee. And then instead of trying to get on all fours again, Pablo instead turns towards Marcelo, so he's facing him, and then goes back into a half guard position. Now immediately we see the same position that we saw in the beginning, and before Marcelo can backstep or anything like this, Marcelo does get his body directly under Marcelo again, getting that position that he had before with Marcelo's leg on his shoulder. But the reason that Pablo isn't able to do any sweeps from here is because of the leg positioning that they both have. Marcelo, even though his left leg is compromised right now, he was aware enough to make sure that his right leg was in a better position, and so he put his knee to the ground, and that also makes sure that Marcelo's hips are not directly above Pablo's. Marcelo uses the same strategy as before when he was in this position, so he pushes Pablo's head down. As soon as Marcelo clears his left leg, he starts immediately focusing on getting the underhook on his left side. The underhook is what's going to allow him to advance and pass the guard from here. Once he's able to secure the underhook, he does go for the head and arm grip, and then from here it's just a matter of being able to pull your hips forward, and that allows him to pass the guard. We see that Marcelo is trying to look for different angles to attack. Pablo is doing a great job of keeping his arms very tight to his body, making sure that Marcelo can't get any sort of underhooks going. Before the camera angle changes, we see that Pablo is starting to get to his side a little bit, and he also has inside position, possibly going for an underhook on Marcelo's left side. And Marcelo realizes that if he stays on this side, there could be a chance that Pablo is going to be able to get up. So very quickly, without hesitation, he switches over to the other side. When Marcelo jumps to the other side, he keeps his feet tucked in, and Pablo isn't able to catch a leg to get back into half guard. Marcelo looks like he's going for a no-gi baseball bat choke, and that forces Pablo to defend by keeping both of his arms on the inside of Marcelo's elbows. But little does Pablo know that this is bait for Marcelo. So you see in this position that both of Pablo's arms are trapped underneath Marcelo's body, which means that his neck right now is fully exposed without any sort of defense. And because of that, Marcelo starts going towards north-south. He's able to bring his right arm over Pablo's left arm, And then from here, he brings his weight down and then he starts going for a north-south choke. Now, Pablo's defense isn't bad here, but Marcelo's north-south choke is legendary. So even though that he has his left forearm fully in Marcelo's throat, and it looks like he's trying to also angle himself to turn into Marcelo, both of these things are what you want when you're trying to escape the north-south choke. But like I said, Marcelo has a legendary north-south choke. Despite Pablo's best efforts to defend, he digs his own grave by taking out his right arm to try to relieve some of the pressure from the choke, but Marcelo has a nasty north-south squeeze, and he is able to get the tap. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown, and I will see you in the next video.